The story begins when a man is having a dream when he is hospitalized because he suffers from a chronic disease. Before long, the man woke up and carried out his activities as a farmer as usual. This man is named Hiraku Machio and lives with his many wives and girlfriends. Machio also has a lot of kids, and I'm not going to count or call their names because there are too many. All the girls look happy and do their daily activities. Then two Machio's wives approached him to chat and give affection as usual. Machio also tells them he had a dream last night, remembering the previous world. Machio didn't expect that he could live a healthy life in another world and get such a peaceful state.
本当にあの頃の俺は思いもしなかっただろうな。こんな夢みたいな暮らしをするようにな。
The story goes back to when Machio died due to his chronic illness. God apologizes to Machio because his life on earth is so bad due to God's mistake. Machio is often betrayed by others and has been in the hospital for years. Because of that, God will give a second life to Machio in another world. God promised to make Machio live healthy, free, and peaceful. Even God will give magic and a body resistant to any disease to Machio. God offers one wish to Machio if he wants something for life in another world. Then Machio replied that he wanted to be a farmer. He has been fond of farming-themed games for a long time and often watches television shows about good farming practices. Machio had not interacted with the people of the previous world for a long time, so he wanted to become a farmer in a quiet and comfortable place. God was surprised by Machio's simple request. Then God immediately contacted the god of agriculture by phone. The task of the gods now in front of Machio is simply reincarnating people. Then the god of agriculture was able to grant Machio's profession request, and he was gifted with the magic power of the all-purpose farming tool.
体が動く。体を起こすのも久しぶり。
Machio finally reincarnated into the body of a 20-year-old man. His body condition was very healthy, and he felt that there was extraordinary stamina in his body. Machio is very happy because he can live again in another world and live life like a normal person. Currently, Machio is in a forest far from the city. He also started planning the steps he would take for the next few days. Machio has farming experience through the game, so he can do things according to what he used to play. Then Machio immediately tried the magic power of the all-purpose farming tool and plowed some land there. Afterward, Machio explores the forest for a river, but unfortunately, he doesn't find it. Then Machio found a large tree suitable for his base. Machio immediately dug a hole to find a spring. After finding it, Machio immediately looked for fruit or something edible around the forest, but he couldn't find it. Machio was still not hungry because the stamina in his body was insane, so he continued to chop down trees to gather materials for a house.
わからないが、想像できれば万能農具を変形させられるらしい。枝を落として丸太に切り分け、硬い木がチーズのように切れていく。
The sun was already starting to set, and it was only then that Machio realized that he had not built a bonfire. Machio also couldn't take out a lighter yet because he didn't ask God for details about this ability. Because of that, he was forced to make a temporary shelter at the foot of the largest tree. Machio also made wooden food utensils while waiting for morning to come. The next day, Machio prepared a bonfire and did another tree cutting activity, but suddenly a monster attacked him. Machio killed the rabbit monster and cooked the meat for today's breakfast. Well, even though the unseasoned rabbit meat didn't delicious, Machio was still grateful for getting something to eat. But he wasn't hungry, he was just refilling his stamina again. Afterward, Machio made a toilet and farm fields. He also planned to grow vegetables in these fields, but after Machio finished making them, he realized he didn't have any seeds. Because of that, Machio will look for any plants around this forest to plant on his farm. But the next day, Machio was surprised because his fields were filled with vegetable crops. He thought this might be a blessing from the god of agriculture. Then Machio made a defense for his base so that the monsters would not destroy his farm. Many days have passed, and Machio continues tending the vegetables with the all-purpose farming tool. Afterward, he made a small house for his residence. Days and weeks passed, and Machio had gotten used to the life he was leading in another world. Then he saw a pair of hungry dogs. Because of that, Machio immediately ordered them to enter the base and eat the food that Machio got from the monsters. But suddenly, female dogs are about to give birth to cubs, and Machio is forced to take them to the house he has made. Machio also put up a bonfire to keep the dogs warm. The next day, Machio was very happy because the female dog managed to give birth to her puppies. But the dogs don't want to leave Machio's base. Because of that, they became Machio's first friends here. The male dog is named Kuro, and the female is named Yuki. If the names are combined, it becomes Kuroyuki. Then Machio built another house beside Kuroyuki's house. Kuroyuki also often helps Machio to protect the headquarters from attacks by monsters. From here on, Machio will live his new life peacefully and relax with Kuroyuki.
ぼちぼちのんびり頑張っていこう
On the other hand, a girl is enjoying her dinner in a secluded bar. The bartender tells about the Forest of Death, whose rumors have spread everywhere. There were many wild animals and monsters there, and if they attacked the village, the citizens would not be able to rest because they had to deal with the problem.
ちょうどいいかもね。
After God reincarnated Machio, God was worried about his condition and decided to look in the forests. God still feels guilty because he made Machio's destiny even more miserable in the previous world. That destiny was supposed to be for the criminals, but gods cannot interfere in human life directly. So God deliberately gave Machio another chance to live in another world as his apology. But God remembered that the forest he chose was a forest of death filled with dangerous monsters. He couldn't return Machio to this god's realm because he had already been reincarnated into another world. The gods want to take Machio's life right away through another medium, but the gods' rules must not interfere with human life. Gods only determine destiny and help human life processes indirectly. So God becomes even more guilty and wants to apologize after Machio dies.
神だってミスはするのだ。
After several days of planting various vegetables, Machio slightly understood his powers. It turns out that all these vegetable seeds can grow by themselves thanks to the all-purpose farming tool. Suppose Machio is plowing the field while expecting or imagining the vegetables he wants to plant. In that case, the vegetable seeds will automatically be planted in Machio's field. So he just had to wait for the vegetable seeds to grow. Thanks to the all-purpose farming tool, any crop grows faster than usual. Even Machio is often surprised by the fresh vegetables produced by this all-purpose farming tool. But he also has to continue to learn about agricultural knowledge even further. For example, some potatoes were unfit for harvest due to exposure to the sun, so Machio had to check each potato to add soil on top. Then Machio also made statues of the gods because he could farm leisurely in another world thanks to them. Machio didn't know what the god of agriculture looked like, so he made a handsome statue in the clothes typical of a farmer.
なんだか文化的になった気がする。神様に感謝。
Machio and Kuroyuki's life in this forest can be categorized as a primitive era because there is no technology here. Every day they only eat the meat of the rabbit monsters that usually attack their base. The taste of the food that Machio usually cooks is very original or bland. There are no sweet, salty, or other spices. Machio hopes he can get salt so that the food he makes tastes delicious. Then Machio tries something new through the power of his all-farming tool. He started growing fruits according to his imagination. Machio's food supply will be more varied if they can grow properly.
気長に待つことにしよう。それ
Machio's life with Kuroyuki and their children was very peaceful and happy. Machio is also aware of the horns on his pet dogs. He wasn't surprised by it because this was another world. After all, Machio was grateful to continue playing and have friends like them. But if things like this continued, Machio would also feel lonely.
順番待ち。
Kuroyuki and their children also frequently explored the forest and were able to return safely. Thanks to them, Machio could finally find a river very far from the base. There is also a wonderful waterfall that is suitable to be used as a place to refresh themselves. He also intends to create a water system from the river to his fields. This will take a long time, but Machio will work on this project in stages. Then Machio decided to build a toilet near a river to facilitate his natural needs as a human.
とりあえずトイレを作った。文化的。
After that, Machio returned to his base to grow various groceries needs. For example, oil-producing plants, wheat can be made into flour and all-purpose, and sugar cane to add a sweet taste.
いつの間にか気温が下がってきた。ここに住むようになってどれくらい経っただろう。
Winter is almost here, and Machio will definitely be cold because the forest is freezing. Because of that, he planned to use the skin from the monster rabbit he kept and cleaned. But unfortunately, the monster's skin still smelled bad, and Machio couldn't bear to wear it. The only way is for Machio to shut himself up at home for a few weeks until the winter subsides, so he had to prepare a supply of firewood and food. Then suddenly, Kuro called Machio because a cute spider monster appeared in their base. But this monster didn't attack Machio. Instead, the spider greeted him like this. The monster understood that Machio had a hard time dealing with the cold temperature in this forest. So the monster knitted a handkerchief for Machio, which was very high quality and soft. Machio doesn't know where this spider comes from. But now the monster lives in Machio's big tree, and the monster really likes to eat potatoes. Wait a minute, I just discovered that spiders can eat potatoes. She also continues to make clothes out of the rabbit monster skins that Machio collects. Not only that, but she also knits various kinds of other equipment for Machio's house. So now, Machio has a new friend, and he names the spider Zabathan because it looks like a pillow.
座布団。新たな頼れる同居人だ。
Finally, winter came, the temperature outside was extreme, and the forest was filled with snow. Kuroyuki and their children shut themselves in their house. Meanwhile, Machio has prepared a large supply of food and firewood to survive this extreme weather. He also thought that Zabathan was hibernating and had not come down from the tree since many days ago. Machio is grateful because his fate is now better than the world before. Even so, Machio still feels lonely because he hasn't talked to anyone in a long time. Even in the previous world, he had never been visited by anyone while suffering from a chronic illness.
このままだと喋り方を忘れそうだ。どうしてだろう。なんとなく物寂しい。
Months have passed, and the season has turned to spring. Machio lives life as usual with his pets. But one day, Kuroyuki's grown children line up in front of Machio to ask permission to explore the forests. A few days later, it turned out that they had returned to headquarters with their couples. Machio doesn't know what happened to them, but he is happy because Kuroyuki's children have their own families. Machio is also surprised after seeing Zabathan again. It turns out she is a female spider that hibernates to give birth to her children. Machio is a little jealous of them for having a family, but Machio didn't mind it and continued developing his farm. Many villagers he has to give food every day. By the way, Machio already considers this a small village because of the residents and the independent system of his friends. Several weeks later, Zabathan sounded the warning alarm, and Kuro came to report that something was in the vicinity of the village. After Machio followed Kuro's direction.
出会いはいつも突然である。
It turns out she was the girl at the bar at the time. Machio was surprised because a girl without clothes came to the middle of the forest like this. She was terrified of being attacked by Kuroyuki and Zabathan's children. Machio immediately stopped his pet's actions, and the girl asked him for help. When Machio approached her,
魔物なんだ。実は魔物とかそういう危険な何かだよ。成長した。待て待て、おかわり。お座り。また小さくなった。
After the girl turned into a lowly form again, Machio asked, "Who are you? Are you my enemy?" Then the girl says that she is not Machio's enemy and asks for help so that Machio's pets don't attack her anymore. The girl also apologizes for suddenly sucking Machio's blood. She was forced to do it because she had to recover her stamina to transform into her adult body. If the girl was too tired, her body would turn the lowly form like this while naked. Well, she's cute when she's in lowly form. The girl thought Machio's pets were monsters in this forest, so she tried to attack one of them. But it turned out she failed, resulting in being attacked by all of Machio's pets like this. The girl didn't expect to meet a human in the forest like this, so today's incident was a coincidence for her. Then Machio allowed the girl to suck his blood again. He also deliberately put her on his lap so she could be more comfortable and enjoy Machio's blood. Several minutes passed, and the girl finally changed form and put her clothes back on. She thanked Machio because she had never sucked blood this fresh from other humans. Then Machio wondered why the girl's body was not as big as before. She replied if she sucked more of Machio's blood like before, Machio could die. But Machio didn't care about that. He allows the girl to suck Machio's blood until she is satisfied and transforms into her adult body. Then the girl accepted Machio's offer and sat on his lap again. The The girl was amazed by Machio's farm because she had never seen anything like this in the forest. Then she was curious about the tomatoes Machio grew because she had never seen fruit like this. Then Machio said that it was a tomato vegetable, almost similar to fruit but still categorized as a type of vegetable. Maybe this fruit doesn't exist in this world, and only Machio grows it. Then Machio immediately used his all-purpose farming tool to give her one tomato. The girl was surprised because these vegetables can be eaten immediately, and the taste and texture are also unique. Then she wanted to see all the farm fields that Machio planted here, and they had fun harvesting vegetables together. At night, the girl was pleased because she could find many kinds of plants today. She also registered the names of the vegetables she learned in her magic notebook. Then they chatted and got to know each other. She is Rurishiru from the vampire race. She was fighting with the nobles in her country because they wanted to take away the research that Ru had been obtaining. Ru escapes, and the nobles command armies to capture her. Because of that, Ru hides her identity and gets information about this forest from a bartender in a town. She deliberately came to this forest to seek a safe hiding place. After all, this forest also likely had something new for Ru to research. It turns out that Ru was right, and now she is very excited and interested in researching every vegetable that Machio grows. The rumors from the citizens were completely true. The Forest of Death was filled with many high-level monsters. Upon hearing that, Machio was surprised because he didn't know about the rumors. Ru is also surprised that Machio doesn't know about this Forest of Death, even though Machio has lived here for a long time and has many high-level monster pets. Then Ru was also curious about the magic Machio used when cutting the vegetables. She had never seen the magic that could form such a tool. Because of this, Ru becomes increasingly interested in Machio and his farm. She also asked Machio for permission to visit this base as often as possible. Machio was silent for a moment. He thought his meeting with Ru happened by chance. According to him, chances are this opportunity will not come a second time. Because of that, Machio begs Ru to stay here if she doesn't mind. Ru replies that she can stay here for a few days since the research also takes a long time. But Machio immediately states that he wants to live together with Ru. Even if Ru doesn't mind, Machio doesn't want just a few days but to be together forever. Machio didn't want to pass up this opportunity. He couldn't live this life alone for so many years.
わかったわよ。ちょっと急すぎて。
Ru blushed because Machio said that so suddenly. After all, they had only met today. But Machio said with enthusiasm that they would get used to it when they lived together.
追われる身だし。
構わない。
ヴァンパイアだし。
問題ない。
一緒に住めって言ったでしょ。
ああ、一人は寂しいし。つまり
ここに住むのは分かったわよ。プロポーズなんて。
プロポーズ？
今さら照れるの？
いや、そうか。
ずっと一緒にいろって、それってそういうことでしょ？
この通り！
もう分かったって言ってるのよ。
Finally, Ru accepts his proposal, and Machio is very happy because he will no longer be alone in this world. His fate has changed much for the better. Now, Machio's life is more colorful thanks to the presence of Ru, the beautiful vampire girl. They also greeted each other very romantically. But Machio sees Ru deliberately changing body form to a teenager. Ru says this is self-defense, so Machio wouldn't do something like that every night in bed with Ru.
こうしていれば手を出そうとは思わないでしょ？
ああ、自重します。
Machio is going to plant sweet potatoes today to increase the food supply. Then Ru asked about medicinal herbs to Machio. Can it be planted in the field or not? Machio replied that he would try it first. He is happy because Ru is the first person as a resident who can communicate directly with Machio. If he adds up the number of monsters, Ru will likely be the 30th resident.
種をどこかから調達しないとね。
第30村人くらいだ。
何その肩書き。
実は種は必要なくてだな。
どうして？
At night, a beautiful girl visits the same bar as Ru before. She asked a bartender there about Ru. The bartender says that Ru has headed to the Forest of Death, and recently many people have wanted to go there. He also advised the girl to surrender because the forest was very dangerous.
なるほど。わかりました。ご親切にありがとうございます。 おはよう。
ああ、おはよう。
A few weeks later, Machio and Rue woke up in the morning as usual. Of course, Rue always uses her teenage form so that Machio doesn't ask her to play hot activities in bed. Maybe you are confused when I mention hot activity in bed. I mean, it's sex. Rue says that Machio was too lustful when Rue became her adult form. The vampire race doesn't really fit in during the day, but chances are Rue is a daywalker type of vampire. Daywalker type can carry out normal activities like humans and other races. In Machio's mind, Rue has greatly helped him in this village. At first, Rue eats Machio's tasteless cooking because he doesn't have salt. Machio has been trying to search for it, but he can't find it.
もう諦めようかと思う。すごい顔してるな。
Then Rue explained about the layer of salt in Machio's spring. If the white layer here is extracted, salt will be easily obtained in large quantities. Rue is initially very surprised that Machio is not aware of this layer. But even now, she was even more surprised to see Machio, who had just realized this.
すごい顔してるわよ。
Rue has also helped Machio to light up the toilet with light magic. Even though it's basically magic for Rue, still, Machio is surprised and amazed that he can't use magic.
おお、すごいな。
こんなの初歩の魔法よ。
Then Machio said that he wanted to see the orchard progress. Rue would follow him after she finished washing her face, dressing up beautifully, and preparing hot tea for Machio. After seeing the fruit fields, Rue is happy that Machio has planted other fruits here, oranges and peaches. Even though it grows a little longer than vegetables, at least various kinds of fruit can be consumed to increase vitamins in the body. Machio is also planning to plant more fruit, so Rue will look forward to it and be ready to help Machio anytime. Rue has also grown herbal tea on Machio's farm, which is also beneficial for their health. Even the same tea leaves can be made into various other tea preparations. Before long, Zabathan rang the village's wooden bell because something was suspicious in the vicinity of the forest. Because of that, Machio and Rue immediately went to the place Zabathan and Kurayuki's children had pointed out. Upon arriving there, it turns out she is the girl in a small town bar then. Machio had seen this happen before, while Rue was surprised that the girl had chased her to this forest. Then the girl apologized to Machio's pets because she had attacked them first. She was very scared because there were too many pets of Machio. After Machio helped the girl, she immediately healed herself using magic. Machio is amazed that magic is so efficient for so many things. Then the girl can finally find Rue, who always runs away from her territory. Now she will catch Rue. But, of course, Machio's pet doesn't allow the girl to take Rue away from Machio. Then Machio and Rue took the girl to Machio's village first. The girl didn't expect that Rue was hiding and surviving in this perilous forest of death, even though the girl with extraordinary strength can be defeated easily by Machio's pet. Rue said that she also had experienced such an incident. Even they can easily avoid Rue's magic attacks. Then the girl was curious about the man beside Rue now. Because of that, Rue briefly explained while blushing like this.
私の旦那様。旦那様？改めまして、私はティア。
旦那様って今までそんな風に呼ばれたことなかったのに。
驚きました。
開くだ。
Then the girl introduced herself, Tia, from the angel race. Well, even though Tia is an angel sent from the gods, Rue explains that Tia is just a girl who is crazy to fight. Tia's stamina is also powerful when fighting for a long duration. But Tia said that the stupid humans also once intended to kill the angel race as worship. Tia has been chasing Rue all this time because Rue has gone berserk in the city and is wanted by the Knights of the Noble Envoys. She was always researching strange meds, and if there was one that Rue didn't like, she would explode it over and over again. Then Rue defends herself by saying that the nobles are always looking for trouble with her. They always ask Rue to force medicine over and over again. After all, Rue blew up her meds because of the nobles.
メンツを潰したのは事実です。
割と仲良さそうだな。
こんなに何回も爆破してないわよ。あれはただの事故なの。
Then Rue admits her mistake about blowing up meds in her kingdom. She also explains to Machio that Rue purposely hides in this forest because Tia is always looking for and chasing her. If Rue doesn't run away, Tia will fight her with more powerful magic than Rue. Tia is surprised that Rue can give in like this so easily. She is usually stubborn and does not want to admit defeat or mistakes. Rue says that she finally realized the limits of her magical abilities due to the attack from Machio's pet at the time.
なるほど。あの数は反則です。
Then Rue invites Tia to stay here forever with Machio. Rue is sure that Tia will like this environment because Machio's fields are very high quality, and harvest time is also fun. After that, Rue took Tia to tour the fruit and vegetable fields. She also introduced Zabathan to Tia.
まあそうなるわね。
Rue and Machio will be harvesting fruits and vegetables soon, so they invited Tia to do it too. Machio's field is too wide and can't be harvested by just 2 people. Tia can't harvest because she is an angel race, but Rue forces her because Machio will teach her how to harvest properly. After Machio shows her how to harvest vegetables, Tia tries it and manages to harvest one. Then Machio washed the vegetables and served them with salt. After Tia ate it, she was amazed by the fresh taste of Machio's vegetables. Because of that, Tia helped harvest vegetables and fruit with them until the afternoon. Rue said that growing various vegetables and fruit was a good thing, but they must also be exhausted when harvest time comes.
いいなそれ。
At night, Tia tried the strawberries from the previous harvest. She was amazed by the taste of this fruit, and doing farmer activities was also a lot of fun. Then Rue once again forces Tia to stay here with Machio. Tia couldn't turn her down because she was already comfortable with this environment. After all, Rue can no longer stand Machio's lust, which makes her exhausted almost every night.
はい？どういうことですか？
Weeks passed, and Tia was used to harvesting every vegetable and fruit in Machio's field. Then Tia wants Machio to expand his strawberry field because she likes that fruit. Then Machio said that he could expand his field, but they would also be tired to harvest more. After all, if Machio grows too many vegetables and fruits, the food supply becomes overflowing and won't be able to run out if only 3 people consume it. Then Tia was thinking something about labor for Machio so he could expand the farm. Then they met the children of Kuroyuki's children. Machio loves them very much, while Tia is shocked because Machio can be close to these monsters. Machio said that someday the children of Kuroyuki's children would definitely breed again. The children of Kuroyuki's children and children. They will find their respective partners and make a big family here. I'm sure you are confused by my explanation, same as me. Then Machio tries to make a special area for his pets. He also built bigger cages so they could breed more. Machio wanted to give names to them, but he withdrew that intention because Kuroyuki's children were too many. A few days later, Zabathan's children said goodbye to Machio to wander around for a while. But some of Zabathan's children still live in Machio's village. Then Tia also asks for Machio's permission because she wants to go away for a while. She promised to return to Machio village soon and live here again.
何の用事だろう。
まあすぐ戻ってくるわよ。
A few days later, Tia brought beautiful girls from the High Elf race there. They are Ria, Rifa, Rikat, Riz, Riri, Rita, and Risu. Once again, Ria, Rifa, Rikat, Riz, Riri, Rita, and Risu. Their names start with R because they are siblings. Ria is the oldest girl, around 400 years old, and Risu, the youngest girl, is around 300 years old. Tia says their condition has been terrible for years. 200 years ago, these girls were involved in a war with the humans, and the High Elf race was nearly wiped out. Because of that, every remaining clan of the High Elf race scattered and looked for a place to live to survive. These beautiful girls only live in the deep forests and cannot have children because they do not have a place to live. Having a child was the most important thing, so they hoped that Machio would allow them to live here. Instead, they get to work for Machio and tend his fields every day. Tia and Rue also don't mind if they live in this small village. After all, that race of high elves excelled in every field.
どうですか？ね、いいでしょ？ぜひお願いします。お願いします。
喧嘩しないようにしてくれるなら構わない。
ありがとうございます。
Then Rue began to introduce the extended family of Kuroyuki and Zabathan. Of course, these beautiful elves fainted because Machio's pets were so weird. After that, Machio helps the beautiful elves to plow the land, chop wood, make toilets, etc. They are very good at architecture and can build a house quickly. Machio also learned a lot about architecture from them, and their house was finally completed in just 10 days. The house of the beautiful elves is good, and because of that, Machio is a little less confident because his house is too ugly.
ジェラシー。
へこんでる？ みたいですね。
After that, Machio and the other beauties started relaxing in this new house. The first floor is the living room, kitchen, and various rooms to be with the family. Meanwhile, the second floor contains rooms for beautiful elves. They also have a warehouse to store their needs. Many days have passed, and the beautiful elves have started to get used to living a new life in this village. Machio is also very helpful because they always diligently harvest fruits and vegetables. After the harvest, Ria said that the elves wanted to cook meat for tonight. Machio was surprised because he had just discovered that the high elf race isn't afraid of fire. According to Machio's knowledge in the previous world, the elf race loved nature very much and always took good care of the forest. Even they got rid of the steel equipment because the elf race is a magic user. Get up early, eat, then sleep at night. Then Ria said that Machio underestimated nature too much because living like that would die quickly. Must use a variety of ways to survive in the forest. They were harvesting other vegetables a few days later, and the elves suddenly wanted to cook some bread for today's lunch. They asked Machio's permission to use the flour in the warehouse. They also have prepared bread risers which they keep in their home storage. Machio allowed them, and he was very excited because he had never eaten bread before in this world.
パンを膨らませる天然の酵母だったんだな。
美味しいわね。本当に喜んでいただけて。
The bread is ready to be served, and Tia, Rue, and Machio are pleased with the result of cooking these beautiful elves. Machio also wanted to expand his wheat fields to produce more flour. Then Machio just remembered something, and he asked Rue, is there an owner of this forest? Rue replies that this forest belongs to the Demon King, and Machio is shocked after hearing Rue's words. Machio didn't expect that he was establishing his own territory in the Demon King's place. Machio worries that the Demon King will be angry if he establishes the territory without permission. Then Rue calms Machio because this is his territory, and Machio doesn't get any help from the Demon King. So Machio didn't have to worry about such a thing.
そんなものかな。
そんなものよ。
At night, Tia, Ria, and Rue are having a sweet chat at the house of the beautiful elves. They talked about the strange thing that happened to Machio because the land in this forest was not suitable for agriculture. They also didn't expect Machio to tame the demonic monsters Inferno Wolf and Demon Spider. Machio also doesn't know about the races that exist in this world, and this is a strange thing for them. On the other hand, Machio is making more wooden utensils to prepare for the elves later. He also wants to ask the beautiful elves for help to continue the project of flowing water from the river to the village someday. A few days later, Ria said they would make iron furniture and whatever equipment the villagers needed. The high elf race could become a blacksmith to fulfill the need for iron tools. Because of that, Machio immediately made a blacksmith's place for them, and the elves immediately worked on the furniture needed. Machio was amazed by their abilities in any field. Ria said that the high elf race had lived in the world for a long time and had a lot of experience. Then the elves were very happy because they could now have a place to live. Because of that, they asked Machio to serve them tonight in the bedroom to make love until they are satisfied. They wanted children so the high elf race could have more offspring.
もう一つについてはあえて突っ込まないことにした。
New residents have arrived, and Zabathan's family caught a monster queen bee using a spider web. They report to Machio that the queen bee is harmless, and they vouch for it. They also want this bee to be put in the orchard, so Machio will build a home for the bee there. By the way, this queen bee is thankful that she wasn't killed by Zabathan's family and Machio.
よし、わかった。
After a few days, the bee made its own nest, which was quite large in size. Zabathan's family always feeds the bees with strawberries every day. Machio is sure that an army of bees has formed in this nest, but it didn't matter as long as they didn't quarrel with Zabathan's family. He is also grateful to be able to produce honey from this nest. By the way, Machio's wives are very afraid of bees. Machio thinks they most likely had a bad experience due to these bees. Machio plans to work on the water supply system, which was delayed then. Because of that, he made a reservoir in advance to collect water from the river. Machio is accompanied by Ria there and has been working on this alone for a long time. Machio wants Ria and her sister to help build this aqueduct system. However, the distance from Machio's village to the river is quite far, and Machio has not decided on a suitable design for this aqueduct system. At first, Machio wanted to make a stone bridge for the water to flow through, but Ria said that she and her sister rarely find stones in this forest. Wood could be their main material, but there must have been some leaking parts of the wood, due to the distance to the river being too far. Because of that, Machio had the idea to use the soil he had hardened using the all-purpose farming tool's ability. Soil like this is as strong as concrete.
よし、これでいけそうだ。
栗
なんでもない。
Machio had dug out the reservoir and still had a lot of abandoned land. So he and the elves quickly produced concrete and started working on an aqueduct system. Thanks to the help from the elves, the aqueduct system was quickly completed over several days. Getting water supplies and watering fields is easier now. Then Machio saw a fish monster carried away in a shelter or water filter. According to Machio, this fish monster looks normal and harmless, but suddenly,
捕まえやすくて助かるが。
of course, Tia and Rue were surprised to see Machio cooking a top-tier monster fish. This fish is very dangerous, and Machio can beat it. After the fish was cooked, Machio's wives hesitated to eat it because this fish was never consumed. Because of that, Machio ate it first to convince them.
より鮭っぽい味だ。
酒
いや、なんでもない。よかったらみんなも食べる？
これはおいしいです。
Then Machio plans to make rice fields to get rice. Machio really missed this delicious food. He also asked the elves to help him, but Machio would make the fields first. After the rice fields were finished, Machio gave them a tutorial on properly planting rice seeds. Plants like this do not exist in this world and only on Earth. Then the beautiful elves started to take off their shoes and followed the instructions given by Machio. They learned quickly, and Machio asks Zabathan's family to exterminate rice pests. After the rice seeds have been planted, the rice grows fast thanks to the all-purpose farming tool. Machio enlists the help of the beautiful elves again to harvest these grains using Machio's all-purpose farming tool. After Machio gave a tutorial to the beautiful elves, they harvested it very quickly. After that, Machio dried the rice to proceed to the next process. Ria is amazed that Machio knows a lot about farming. After the rice plants were dry, Machio invited his wives to see the next process. Machio immediately envisioned a tool for separating grain, with the all-purpose farming tool's capabilities. After Machio finished separating the grain, the next process was to separate the leaves and fine waste from the grain. Then it is crushed to peel off the outer skin of the grain, and pounded to remove the grain's inner skin so it can become rice. Tia and Rue were shocked because the process of making this food was too much and quite complicated. Then Machio immediately cooked the rice. He also told Rue to use fire with magic to furnace. After the rice was finished cooking, Machio made onigiri for his wives. The elves were curious about the taste of the food Machio made. Likewise, Rue and Tia had never eaten this food before. Then Machio served onigiri to them. Machio's wives were very happy with this food. This was the first time they tasted rice. Inside the rice was the fish that Machio had just cooked. Since Machio's wives like to eat rice, Machio planted more rice to get more supplies. After planting the rice, the beautiful elves cleaned their bodies with magic, unlike Machio, who cleaned his body manually. Then Machio had the idea to make hot spring around the reservoir. He immediately gave the design of the hot spring to his wives. Of course, this was the first time they had heard of a design like this. Then Machio guaranteed the enjoyment of this hot spring, and his wives would have no regrets if they built this together. After that, the construction of the hot spring begins, and after the construction is complete, Machio thinks of something important. Bathing water will definitely pollute the river environment. Then Tia suggested Machio use the slimes to be in charge of cleaning up waste, corpses, or any dirt. So Tia will look for slimes around the ponds and swamps in this forest. After Tia got a lot of slimes, Machio immediately scattered them all over the place. By the way, Machio also noticed mold growing on the logs he kept in the shed. He once asked his wives about the mushrooms in the forest. They say there are many poisonous mushrooms here, which are not good for consumption. But the elves can eat them because the mushrooms have been burned for a long time. Because of that, Machio immediately imagined the names and forms of the mushrooms he knew on Earth. Then he tapped a log with his all-purpose farming tool so the mushroom seeds could be planted. After that, Machio taught his wives how to bathe in a place with this new design they knew about. Machio explains them in theory, but Machio's wives want him to put them into practice. They don't understand if Machio just explains in theory. So, of course, Machio took off his clothes in front of his wives. After Machio explained the tutorial on how to bathe in this place, Machio took a dip in the hot spring. And he was very happy now to be able to enjoy simple things like this. In his previous life, Machio was always in the hospital and had never felt this comfortable. Then Machio's wives suddenly took off their clothes because they understood Machio's explanation. Tia and Rue seduce Machio with their respective large melons. Of course, the other elves didn't want to be outdone by Tia and Rue. Machio intends to separate the hot spring for men and women, but his wives disagree. In the end, Machio is a little troubled because these girls' lust is too high for him. In fact, they are addicted to doing hot activities with Machio, who has unlimited stamina and a bird as strong as iron without going limp. Very beautiful scenery, good for eye health and the natural instincts of men. A few days later, the mushrooms on the logs had grown. Shortly after, Kuro's family brings the other elves to the village, and Ria says they are her old village friends. Rami, Raru, Rafa, Rurasha, and Rasa. Rafa is the oldest sister in this family. Then Machio allowed them to live in this village. Rafa and her sister are very grateful for getting a proper living place. Then Ria suggested they build a new house for them and Machio. Ria, Rafa, and the others were happy that the high elf race would not become extinct. They will continue to make children with Machio until satisfied. Now the story turns to Kuro's character, the demon or inferno wolf. He lived alone in this forest of death since birth. Kuro survives by hunting monsters and never loses when fighting other male demon wolves. But he must have lost to the she-wolf because that was absolute fate in this world. Then the female became Kuro's wife because of the demon wolf pairing system. If the female loves the male must become her mate. If the male refuses, they will surely fight and the female will win. Then they go on an adventure together, but the female becomes pregnant and the male must protect her from other predators. But sadly, Kuro was defeated by the king of monsters in this forest named Grappler Bear. But the Grappler suddenly left because he only wanted to make the demon wolf suffer. Kuro and his wife couldn't hunt due to their badly injured condition. They had also met Rafa and the others in this forest. In the end, Kuro and his wife arrive at the Machio's village. Kuro didn't understand why humans lived peacefully in this forest of death. Kuro also felt great power from Machio's equipment. At first, Kuro thought Machio would kill him, but apparently, Kuro was wrong. Machio gave Kuro a new life, and Kuro's wife gave birth to healthy children. Kuro is also surprised because Machio is a strong human who can defeat the top-level monsters in this forest of death. Since then, Kuro has become obedient to Machio because he is Kuro's master. Kuro also didn't expect Machio could get so many strong girls. In fact, they really love Machio and obey whatever he orders. Kuro understood that Machio must not know that Kuro was the top-level demon wolf in this forest. Even the demonic wolves were greatly feared by humans. Kuro also knows that Machio must be oblivious to Kuro, who is always watching and can understand human behavior. Well, at least Kuro can have a big family and enjoy life here. He is grateful for being able to meet a good human like Machio. As usual, Machio chopped as much wood as he could. Then a new home for Machio and the new elf girls are built. Machio is shocked because his house is too big for him, Tia, and Rue to live in. Machio's wives helped each other to make the new house as luxurious as possible, because Machio is the chief of the village in this nameless village. Then they started the room tour and checked every room that was there, starting from the living room for the gathering place for Machio's wives. After that, they went to the second floor, and Rue said she wanted a separate room for her research. Tia also wanted a big house because the previous house was too small for 3 people. There is a basement to store various kinds of needs. The shared cooking room with Machio's wives is outside the house. Then the dining room with Machio's wives. And finally, the special room for Machio as the chief of the village. There is one more room that makes Machio curious because only a door key is provided from the outside. When Machio opened the room,
見なかったことにした。
Machio's house is the perfect one compared to the elves' house. Rue and Tia are very satisfied with their new home, and Machio also praises the design of the house they made. Machio also gave a statue of Kuroyuki in front of his house to make it look cooler. After that, Machio was preparing ingredients for curry for today's lunch. Tia and Rue didn't know what kind of food it was and didn't understand how to make it. Machio said the curry had a bit of a complicated mix of spices, so he asked them to accompany him in the fields. After arriving at the spice field, they were surprised that Machio had a field like this. They also just found out about some new plants here. By the way, the all-purpose farming tool can make crops immune to all weather conditions. Then Machio started having them help harvest some spices for the curry. Coriander and coriander leaves have a nose-piercing aroma but can produce a refreshing aroma. Then turmeric was used as curry coloring, and Machio asked them to dry the freshly harvested turmeric. With their magic, the turmeric can dry quickly, and Machio is very jealous of the magic they have. Furthermore, cumin is small like this and will be a delicious aroma for curry dishes. Next, black pepper and chili. Then Kuroyuki wanted to smell the coriander leaves that Machio had just picked. But apparently, they stay away because they can't stand the smell. Of course, Rue and Tia had just found a powerful way to subdue this demon wolf, so coriander leaves are very feasible to be used as research material. Machio had already collected these spices, but he didn't see Tia and Rue beside him. Because of that, he asked some elves to help prepare food for the others today. But only Ria comes, and she tells Machio that Tia and Rue are researching the strongest potion they just came across. Then Machio and Ria started cooking curry together romantically. Machio also taught Ria how to cook this food because it was the first time Ria had seen it. Heat the oil in a pan to cook the rabbit meat. Ria will supervise the doneness of the rabbit meat. Then Machio grinds the spices except for turmeric. After the rabbit meat was cooked, Machio heated the cumin in the previous rabbit broth so that the aroma smelled more delicious. After that, they put onions, sugar, and rabbit meat together.
交代しましょうか。
ああ、頼む。チン切りトマトを入れて、さらに炒める。
After that, Machio added spices and water to the curry sauce. Lastly, it was boiled and waited until the rabbit meat was soft. But Machio forgot something important. Then he remembered that carbohydrate foods go best with curry, naan. Machio forgot to make naan because he was too focused on preparing complicated curry spices. Naan is the same food as bread but has a different shape and texture. After the bread dough was twisted, Machio cooked it using a hot stove pan. On the other hand, Rue and Tia had finished researching cilantro, and they saw elves and Kuroyuki there. They also smelled the delicious aroma of Machio and Ria's cooking. Then Machio and Ria had finished cooking curry, and Machio called all his wives over there. Machio's wives feel foreign to this curry food, but Machio reassures them as usual by eating his cooking first. After that, Machio told his wives to try to eat the way he had shown them. When they tried Machio's curry dishes, they were delighted with this food's spicy and delicious taste. Ria said that she had memorized all the stages of cooking curry, and the elves would try it one day. Then Machio said that they shouldn't force themselves to eat this curry if they didn't like the spicy taste. Of course, they ate Machio's cooking as usual because it was too delicious. In fact, they are always lining up to spend it. Machio only ate a little of his curry because his wives had large appetites. But Machio didn't mind it as long as they were happy and pleased with his cooking.
まあ喜んでもらえたから、それでよしか。
Winter is coming soon, and Machio has to shut himself up at home with his wives. Because of that, Machio prepared various kinds of supplies for the winter. First, there is a lot of firewood that Machio has stored in the basement. Then Machio also prepared lots of potatoes for Zabathan's family, because they would hibernate as usual during winter. Zabathan had also sewn lots of blankets and cloth for Machio's bed. It's a little ambiguous that Zabathan's good intentions were to make that much cloth for Machio. Ria and the other elves are also renovating the blacksmith. Meanwhile, Tia and Rue use fire magic to preserve the food longer. Machio also provided plenty of meat for children of children and children of Kuroyuki's children during the winter.
にストックしておきたいところだ。
Then Machio will preserve the vegetables in stacked boxes like this. The bottom serves to collect water from these vegetables, while the top will freeze because it will be covered with cloth and snow later. The way it works is almost like a refrigerator. Machio is still jealous of his wife's magic because it can be used in any condition. Machio tries on purpose, but still, he can't use magic. At night, Machio tries to ask Ru about this magic in his room. Ru said that basic magic, like starting a fire, was difficult to learn. But if Machio trains hard every day, he can use this one basic magic. Machio also tried to make golems like Tia did, but Machio couldn't because he didn't understand how to do it. He is an ordinary farmer who can only farm and cook, unlike his wives, who are great in many ways. Ru says that the golem is advanced magic and difficult to learn. Tia is great because she can use this magic to create many golems. Machio is amazed by Tia because she can master the magic and often helps bring trees to the village. Hearing that, Ru was jealous because Machio complimented Tia. Ru also can do all things if Machio wants. Ru says that Machio is the greatest man for being able to build a village in this forest. No humans and other races can live like Machio here. By the way, Ru is wearing her adult form and dressing like this. I'm sure you can understand the activities that they do next. Winter had finally arrived, and Machio put snow above his vegetable box as he had planned. After that, Machio makes games to entertain his wives during the winter season, including Kuroyuki. There's Othello or Reversi, chess, and Mojang. Wait, I mean Mahjong. Then Machio explained the game of Reversi to his wives. There are 2 black and white chips or coins. Every time 2 of the same chip clamp another chip, the middle chip will change color to the property of the person clamping it. The game will be finished until the board is completely filled and the most color is the winner. Ru underestimates this Reversi game because the rules are very simple. But Tia says the strategy is the key to victory in this game. Machio admires Tia because she can understand the essence of this game. Upon hearing this, Ru becomes even more jealous of Machio, and she challenges Tia to a game. Tia accepts Ru's challenge because they still have animosity before becoming Machio's wife. Tia's white chip will go first, and Ru's black chip. After the game progresses, it turns out that Tia dominates the game more than Ru. Ru deliberately throws the board and pretends to accidentally slip. Ru wants to have the game reset again from the beginning, but Tia can restore the board position and the game back to normal with her magic.
ボードをひっくり返す方が恥ずかしいですよ。
リセットが効かないやつだ。
On the other hand, Machio's wives are also playing this game together. Kuro even helped give them hints to make the game more exciting. Of course, Machio was surprised that Kuro could understand this game. Not only Reversi, but Kuroyuki can also play chess easily after being explained the rules by Machio. The tension of their chess game was so intense that Machio did not dare to go against their intelligence. But Ru challenges Kuro because she didn't win against Tia before. Machio had time to stop Ru's intentions, and well, it turned out like this.
さすがに黒相手にリセットする勇気はなかったらしい。
After chess, they play Mahjong together, and the game tension is very serious for every player. Machio has already told the rules and totals for these Mahjong pins, but the final result of the game was beyond Machio's expectations.
黒、お前がナンバーワンだ。
平久さんの点がなくなったので、黒さんの勝ちです。
Then Machio made another game, bowling with the pawns that his wives had a modification. Machio had already explained the rules of the bowling game to them. His wives are very excited to play this game because the pawns are like enemies, as if targeting the target with the power of the ball. If the pawns aren't drawing like bad guys, Machio's wives don't understand the purpose and excitement of this game.
8本、まあまあね。
シンプルさが受けたのか。ボーリングは大人気になった。
For weeks they ate together and played this game continuously. Of course, Machio and Ru were still beaten by the others. Looks like they have really bad luck in a game like this.
おはようございます。
おはよう。
Spring has arrived, and Machio will carry out his activities as usual with his wives. But suddenly, Zabathan sounds the village alarm, and an unexpected event occurs.
ワイバーンです。嘘でしょ。
なんかでかいやつが。
The wyvern suddenly attacks Machio's village, but luckily Ru and Tia can cast barrier magic. They wanted to attack the wyvern directly, but unfortunately, this wyvern had very strong magic barriers and was difficult to penetrate with their magic. In Machio's mind, he understood that Ru and Tia were worried about the safety of this village. They definitely couldn't use too much magic because their power could cause damage to the village. Machio was very angry because some of his fields were destroyed. He wanted to attack the wyvern to protect his wives, but he couldn't use magic. Suddenly, Machio accidentally activated his all-purpose farming tool, and there was already a golden spear in Machio's hand. Then he immediately attacked the wyvern with the spear. Of course, Rue and Tia are surprised after seeing Machio show his anger and strength for the first time. Machio's wives reported that the house in the village was safe, but the fields were almost burnt. They also approached the dead wyverns in the forest. Machio was curious why the wyverns suddenly came and immediately attacked his village. Who sent the wyvern? Was this the order of the Demon King? Rue, Tia, and Ria say this has nothing to do with the Demon King. There was no way a Demon King could only rule over a single wyvern like that. It was a wild wyvern that happened to be passing by here. But the wyvern they had just defeated was a rare type of wyvern, and almost the same as a dragon. They know this because the wyvern can emit large fire attacks. Then Machio concluded that today was the bad luck that befell the village the first time, so he didn't think about it anymore. Then Machio thanked Tia and Rue because they had withstood the wyvern's first attack.
ところで、
何？
これって食べられるのかな?
Then they decided to take the wyvern to the village. Of course, the elves were very excited because the wyvern's meat was so delicious, and it could be cooked in all kinds of food. Machio cooks a lot of food for his wives because they have worked hard to protect the village. Machio's wives are pleased because they can eat this rare wyvern meat. Ria said that there used to be a large army that wanted to kill the wyvern in its nest. They wanted to try tasting the delicious wyvern meat. But unfortunately, the army failed to kill the wyvern, and instead, they were eaten by the wyvern. Then Tia and Rue are still thinking about Machio's previous strengths. They wouldn't be able to withstand the attack since their magic was like a low-level barrier to Machio's abilities. Machio's spear could penetrate 3 layers of wyvern defenses at once. Even Machio's ability can make a big hole in a wyvern's body. Rue and Tia were lucky because they were only attacked by Machio's pet at that time. If Machio had attacked them, they would probably be dead now.
運命に感謝していただけよ。
大げさだな。
On the other hand, it turns out that the Demon King's castle is not far from Machio's village. Dizzle, the advisor of the Demon King, reports to Randon, the Demon King, that a wyvern is heading to the castle, defeated by a mysterious person. Of course, this made Randon and Blatt, Heavenly King, extremely shocked and panicked. This rare wyvern couldn't possibly be defeated so easily by the Demon King's massive army. They were also panicked because the person who killed the wyvern might become their enemy. But they would see the progress first, and this was the right time for Randon to step down and retire as the Demon King.
辞職しよう。あ、ちょっと逃げないでください。なんだ君。
On the other hand, there is a dragon race castle not far from Machio village. Dorame, the strongest dragon, has been watching Machio's movements from a distance for a long time. He also asked his loyal servant, Gucci, whether the spear could hurt him as the strongest dragon. Gucci replied that no matter what happened, he, as a demon race, would protect Dorame wherever. So Dorame didn't have to worry, and they had to be careful with Machio not to make war with him.
敵対は愚策かと。
だよな。
A few days later, Machio created a special vineyard. There was still plenty of wyvern meat left, and yesterday's dinner would not have been complete without wine. Of course, Machio's wives were very supportive of this because they also wanted to drink wine. They knew the winemaking process, so Machio made a wine press for them to work on. Machio will fill the barrels he has made with his wife, Rarasha. She was skilled in winemaking and understood how to make barrels not leak. Then Machio ordered his wives to press the grapes with clean feet.
大丈夫か?
なんとか働くときによく歌う歌があって、あ、それいいかものようなものがあった方がまとまって動きやすいかもしれません。瞬間管理バラソッセンスタンパスデリラッペー。ルーさん、ほら楽しいですよ。
ちょっと。
ほら。
After pressing the grapes, they had to wait for the fermentation process. But they'd made the wine too much, and Machio wasn't sure it would run out soon. Machio's wives assured him that these wines would run out and they would produce them again soon. On the other hand, God is being scolded by his daughter, who turns out to be the goddess of agriculture. The goddess of agriculture was furious with her father because he had reincarnated Machio into the forest of the dead. Even God gave a hard life to innocent humans like Machio in his previous world. The agriculture goddess would not spare her father for being careless. Even the goddess of agriculture was angry that her father gave Machio the holy spear. Machio's all-farming tool ability is a powerful blessing from God. It was an extremely extraordinary ability, and an ordinary human would be unable to use it. Stamina will be drained, and the body can be destroyed if someone continues to use that ability. It can even die instantly using just one tool. The goddess of agriculture got angrier at her father because the statue Machio had made had the shape of a weak grandfather. The goddess of agriculture would sentence him to sit for 300 years listening to her rambles.
言い訳は無用。生徒300年です。このうっかり親父。
が上回ってるんじゃないかと。
うかつすぎると言ってるんです。
勘弁してくれ、娘よ。
A few weeks later, Zabathan rings the village bell again, and Machio rushes to the location the Zabathan children indicated. Well, the same thing happened again, and this time it was Rue's cousin who was caught by the Zabathan and Kuroyuki families. Her name was Flora, and Machio immediately took Flora to his house. Flora had come to this forest after following Rue for a long time, and Rue definitely still be chased by the Sly Angel.
誰が腹黒ですか？どうしているんですか？
After Flora told him about herself, Machio offered Flora to stay here for a few days. Flora must be exhausted from walking all the way into this forest. Then Flora accepts Machio's offer, but she hesitates. How can a man like Machio become Rue's husband?
あまりパッとしませんわね。
Rue replied that her beloved husband could tame many demon spiders and inferno wolves. Rue is also proud of Machio because he can kill a wyvern with only 2 hits. After hearing that, Flora apologized for her rude words to Machio earlier. Then Machio realized that Kuro was a demon wolf who could use magic. All this time, Machio thought that Kuroyuki was an ordinary stray dog.
すごいな。
知らないで一緒に暮らしてたのね。
Then Machio served lots of food to Flora as an apology for the treatment of the Kuroyuki and Zabathan families in the forest. Of course, Flora really enjoyed the food Machio made. She was also new to this soft tofu dish. Machio explained that tofu is made from soybeans and can be more delicious when combined with miso and soy sauce. Flora was confused by the food spoken by Machio. Then Machio explained his knowledge of making miso and soy sauce. Then Flora recorded the knowledge given by Machio. She also has the same hobby as Rue, researching anything they find out about. A few days later, Flora will return to her territory first. She promised to return soon and brought miso and soy sauce to Machio. A few days later, Flora returned to Machio's village and brought many maids for him. 2 maids named Anne and Remurias. The rest I don't know because there are too many girls in Machio's village. Anne is the maid's representative, and if Machio needs anything, the maids are always ready to provide it to Machio. Flora also brought a female cow to be used as cattle in Machio's village. That way, this village can produce more milk, cheese, and margarine or raise cows. Flora had already asked her father for permission to bring them here, so Machio needn't have worried. Machio is very happy because Flora really helps the development of this village. Then suddenly, Tia thought something about her existence in this village. Zabathan and Kuroyuki already have families. Many elves also live here. The vampire race and the maids of the Kijin race are also here. Because of that, Tia asks Machio's permission to leave for a while. Tia doesn't want her existence to disappear and must help Machio not to lose to the others.
ただいま戻りました。
A few days later, Tia brought her subordinates from the angel race, Gran Maria, Kudal, and Koron. Then there are many races of lizardmen, and it is represented by Dogga. Tia also brings chicken for Machio so he can get supplies of meat and eggs. Of course, Machio is happy and grateful to Tia because she has helped Machio to develop this village. Tia's heart was filled with flowers because she could make her husband happy. A few days, weeks, or months later, the maids had gotten used to living in this village. They can do any housework and have extraordinary stamina. But unfortunately, they can't cook and always eat normal food. Because of that, Machio teaches them how to cook because they are women. After all, cooking is fun. After a few days, the maids quickly learned how to cook and were able to serve food to Machio. Well, even if the appearance of the food is not pretty, they want to continue developing their cooking skills. By the way, 3 of Tia's subordinates were guarding the village and patrolling the forest by air. Tia didn't want any wyverns to suddenly attack the village again like that time. The lizardmen also helped Machio to carry wood for the village. They had the same face and body shape, so it was difficult for Machio to call them. Because of this, Machio gave Dogga the captain's belt so he could distinguish them. Not long after, Ria brought the other high elves, who were still scattered in the forest. Machio is surprised because all of the high elf races are girls. Ria said that the men in the high elf race had almost nothing left from the war hundreds of years ago. But that won't be a problem because the high elf race will continue to have children, with the one human male in this village.
これからどんどん増やしていければ。
A few days or weeks later, representatives of each race are called to Machio's house. Machio wants to name this village because he can no longer count the residents. Most of the population is female, and Machio wants to discuss a suitable name, and suggested that the name of the village be taken from the name of this forest, the Forest of Death being the Village of Death. Of course, Machio didn't agree because that name was too scary and depressing. Ru suggests Machio use his own name, but Machio disapproves of Ru's suggestion as it seems too individual. Then Zabathan suggested Machio name this village based on the Japanese name of a giant tree, Teiju. Then Machio liked that name because the giant tree was like a symbol in this village. At night, Machio throws a party to celebrate and make the village's new name official. Of course, they will enjoy the party tonight with Teiju Village's first produced wine. Everyone was very happy to be able to live peacefully here, and they had decided that Machio was the village chief of this Teiju village. Then Tia invited Machio to chat together because Machio had been daydreaming alone. Machio says that this joy and peace are like a dream for him, but the life Machio is living now is real life. Tia says everyone will live happily here from now on.
大樹の村に乾杯です。
そうしたいな。
じゃあ、起きちゃったんですか？ずるい。
頑張ってみるか村長。